All right, so the issue of the transgender athletes in the women's locker room, a focus on national news and something also being reported here locally, and an issue that we talked about last month. But the YMCA pushed back and said that the allegations are not true. When we talked with the YMCA last month, they laid out that they don't discriminate against anybody. Here is Lou Bart, communications director for the YMCA, with his concerns that he raised just a few weeks ago here in this studio when we raised this issue with him. What can the Y do to, I guess, alleviate those concerns?
Well, I think that if anyone's uncomfortable in any of the designated locker rooms, there's always changing private restrooms in both Ys that anyone can make themselves available to. They're not sex specific, so there's private areas that people can feel secure in. Well, we can't tell anybody to use any specific restroom. We can't single people out. I would say that there are some people that are members of ours that are transgender that are known to us. That's because they want to be known to us. I'm sure there are others that we have no idea, and we are not concerned about that. So we can't discriminate against anybody. The policy of the Y is to be inclusive of all religions, races, sexes, sexual orientation. It's for all. So our policy is to be inclusive and to try to make it as a comfortable experience for all the members as possible.
So again, Lou Bart with the YMCA last month saying that they are to be as inclusive as possible, and they issued a statement yesterday in response to Riley Gaines elevating this issue of a 16-year-old who says that she was alleged to have conducted hate speech by putting up a sign that said biological women only. Well, now that family of the 16-year-old is going to be holding a joint news conference with the Illinois Freedom Caucus, and joining us to talk about why they're getting involved, State Representative Brad Halbrook with the Freedom Caucus joins us. Representative, thanks for taking time with us. Can we get you here? Are you on?
I hope so, Greg.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Yes, you are on. All right. So why are you getting involved in this?
Well, this is a really important issue, and I think this could be the defining issue most definitely of this decade, maybe this century, when it comes to human rights and civil rights. I think this is worth discussing, and we need to have a meaningful conversation about it.
So when it comes to what you know of this situation, give us your rundown. We just saw that the girls were on Fox News this morning talking about what happened, but what's your understanding of this?
Yeah, so I think the young ladies have laid out the situation pretty well. My understanding is that transgender males were allowed into the women's locker room on the swim team, and there was no notice given about it. I just find that appalling. And it's got to be traumatic to these young women.
Representative, the YMCA telling us that they deny that the teen was removed for criticizing the transgender locker room policy. And just to read that quote here, we've got Lou Bart saying that the swimmers in question left on their own accord. They say that there have been a variety of false statements around the same issue circulated by the same individuals since this past May. In this version of the story, the statements that the swimmer was removed from the Y and prevented from practicing on the swim team is false. She left the team and the Y on her own. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know which story's correct. I just find it kind of interesting that we can, I guess evidently we must live in the land of pretend and make believe that we can allow trans people that pretend to be a different sex than they were born to go into the locker rooms of the opposite sex, and that's to be protected. It would be discrimination and unlawful to remove them. I think there's accommodations there, if I understand right, to where they could go to a family dressing room or restroom or a non-gender room and leave the women alone in their own place. So I just find that kind of interesting, the statement that the YMCA is putting out. Again, I think that's what we need to get to the truth of and get to the bottom of.
So the YMCA did say that they do have those family changing facilities that are more private, but they can't force anybody into those particular facilities.
Yeah, and I think there's some exemptions in the Human Rights Act, and I think we're going to do legislation to clarify that to make sure. I guess I still need to understand the Y's position on why they say they can't force anything to do anything. I'm like, why can't they do something to protect young women and minors in these kind of situations? I think it's just common sense and decency that they should protect these people. To say we can't force anybody, well, I just think that's a parsing of words.
We're talking with State Representative Brad Halbrook, a member of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, and they are going to hold a news conference across from a Springfield YMCA facility on Thursday afternoon to elevate this concern raised by the parents of a 16-year-old Springfield swimmer who says that they were kicked off the team for raising issues of transgender women being involved in the women's locker room. Representative, Republicans are a super minority at the Illinois State House, and you've seen a lot of different types of legislation dealing with gender ideology, everything from allowing for individuals to change the gender on their birth certificate without a medical note, and a variety of other things, making certain state statutes gender neutral, and a whole host of other things. What do you see is happening here in the progression of this, and what can Republicans in the super minority even do about it?
Well, it's an interesting question without a doubt. And I see more and more, as you just pointed out, the trend for all the non-gender stuff. And I think it's a part of a bigger conversation, a bigger discussion, exactly what's going on in our state and our nation and our world. And I think it just leads itself to a breakdown of morals and decency and common sense and the family, the nuclear family. This is all by design. This is just pure demonic in my view to do things like this. And I know that I'll probably take some heat for that, but I think we've got to take a look at this and say, look, time out. This is wrong. This is not the right direction for our state and our nation and our world to be going.
But how do you balance that with the issues that individuals who identify as trans have? I mean, do they not have certain rights?
Well, I think we as humans and as citizens of this nation have inalienable rights that have been granted to us by our Creator. And I think that's where we stand. I think the situation is just that simple. There's just two genders. There's male and female, and anything in between that is make-believe.
But what you have is somebody who's born male saying that they identify as female. Are you saying that that needs to be regulated to a degree?
I don't know that that needs to be regulated to a degree. I just think that has to be dealt with somehow, because you have a situation to where anybody can pretend to be anything they want to be. And I think that's wrong to do that. I mean, as a youngster growing up and you want to live in the land of make believe, so be it. But at some point in time, you grow up, you accept responsibility, and you deal with the current situation. You were born a male, you were born a female. That's what it is. There's no in between, and anything different than that, there's issues to deal with there.
Representative Brad Halbrook with us again. He's with the Illinois Freedom Caucus. He'll be joining the family of a 16-year-old swimmer who says that she was kicked off of the swim team at the YMCA here in Springfield for raising objections that she says she was told was hate speech, simply saying biological women only. And this issue also being elevated by Riley Gaines, the collegiate swimmer who has made national headlines testifying into Congress about protecting women's sports from people born males being women going into women's sports. Representative, but back to the question, super minority Republicans, what can you guys do at the State House about this?
Yeah, I think what we're doing right now is we're messaging these things. We're out there talking about them. We're trying to bring attention to them. We're trying to bring attention to the lies, the misinformation, the untruths, the propaganda, so that people can be well informed to make a decision and be able to rectify these kind of wrongs.
State Representative Brad Halbrook will be watching to see the messages you guys bring forward, and that'll be Thursday afternoon here in Springfield with members of the Illinois Freedom Caucus joining the family of the 16-year-old female swimmer who says she was kicked off the YMCA team because she raised objections to a transgender individual being in the locker room there. And also, you've got the issue making national headlines, but the YMCA, again, denies that that was the case, that an individual was let go from the swim team, saying that they left on their own accord. Representative Brad Halbrook, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us, and we'll see you here in Springfield later on this week.
You bet, Greg. Thank you.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield.